Welcome back. You're watching Live from Paris, and it's time now for Campaign Chronicles, our daily countdown to the French presidential election. Joining me for that tonight is Luke Brown. Good evening to you, Luke.
Good evening, Laura.
And together we will be taking a look at the main developments in the race for the Elysée over the past 24 hours. Now, it's been called a two-man contest, the two, of course, being President Nicolas Sarkozy and the socialist leader François Hollande. But believe it or not, there are others in the race as well. We're going to take a look at some of those lesser-known candidates. Luke, we have learned tonight that Dominique de Villepin, the former Prime Minister, will not be one of them.
Yes, unfortunately for his many fans around the world, he probably does have quite a few, thanks to his reputation and his apparent good looks, I'm told. He's actually announced on national TV that he's 30 short of the 500 signatures that you need to have to be qualified for the first round. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about that, as well as what he had to say about his key rival, Nicolas Sarkozy.
There's still a day to go, and I will battle through, but barring a Republican miracle, I will not have the required 500 referrals, so I will be unable to participate in the presidential election. I know Nicolas Sarkozy well. There's no fear, no hatred, or delusion.
Now, the problem for Dominique de Villepin, really, is that his campaign never really took off. Of course, he was stuck at 1% in the polls. That was bad for him. He has blamed the pressure being put on local officials. They're the people that give their signatures. He said that that's pressure has come from higher up. However, many of the other smaller candidates have had the same problem, but they've got the 500 signatures. Dominique de Villepin is very much the first to pay the price. It's been so difficult for him that his team had to go onto Twitter in the past day to ask for help from all the activists because the phone line stopped working at Party HQ, so they had to ask the activists to come in with their mobiles and put those phone calls through to the mayors around the country. He did reiterate in the TV interview that we saw a clip thereof that he would not be allying himself with any of the other candidates. There was a bit of a speculation about going with Sarkozy or Francois.
It wouldn't have been Sarkozy, we can imagine.
Bayrou. Well, as we saw in the quote, he did actually say that there was no hatred between him and Sarkozy, despite basically having a vendetta for much of the past couple of years. So perhaps there is some degree of loyalty there towards the right-wing cause.
All right, so he's not in the running, but another contender who is Norwegian-born Eva Joly. The Green Party candidate will be on the ballot after she did secure the number of signatures she needs to run. Here she is speaking in Paris outside the Constitutional Council a little earlier.
All of those who thought that I would give up after all the insults, rumors and teasing, from which I have suffered for months, were wrong. My determination, my desire to fight for truth and justice, for Europe and the environment, has only increased tenfold.
All right, so she's got the signatures, but she's not doing too well in the polls, is she? Which is surprising given the success the Green Party had here in France during the last European election.
Yes, the moment is wrong, it would appear, for the environmentalists at the moment, and they've also chosen perhaps the wrong person. The economic issue we've got here does mean that environmental issues have very much been marginalised in this campaign. Also, there is a problem around her personality and her CV. She is well known for quite good reasons: integrity, determination, as well as a very good career as an investigative judge, but she's not actually very well known for being an environmentalist, and that is holding her back to a certain extent. She's not a very good public speaker, as we saw in that clip there. To a certain extent, many Greens are currently regretting choosing her as their candidate.
Not green enough for the Greens, it seems, because she's not doing well in the polls at all, is she?
No, it's turning into a bit of a vicious circle, unfortunately. She's been stuck about 2.5% in the polls. She's actually falling to about 1%, and that was not expected. She wasn't expected to be doing that badly. This basically means that her party is beginning to panic. They were supposed to be united behind her. That is less and less the case. She does say that she'll go all the way, but some of the big leaders from the party, the 2002 candidate, the 2007 candidate, they say that is not perhaps such a good idea. It jeopardises the deal that they struck last year after a lot of negotiations with the socialists about getting seats in parliament. That puts that into danger, but given that she's doing so badly in the polls, and if she does that badly in the election itself, it's a demonstration for the Greens once again. Their priority is not the presidential election, which is pretty much unwinnable for them, but really they do want to have a voice in Parliament. That's their priority.
All right, now arguably the most colourful candidate of the campaign is the one-time Trotskyist Jean-Luc Mélenchon. His railing against the bankers, against corporate greed and inequality has captured the imagination of many here in France, and that is sounding alarm bells for the socialist candidate François Hollande. Luke, how worried are the socialists about Mélenchon?
Well, he's the man of the moment. It's not François Hollande, it's not Nicolas Sarkozy, it is Jean-Luc Mélenchon. His poll figures, they are relatively low, but they are still constantly rising at the moment. It was okay for the socialists when he was stuck around 7 or 8%. It wasn't really a threat. It was a bit of a safety valve to let the left-wingers in the party, they perhaps let off a bit of steam by voting for him in the first round. Now, though, he's hovering between 10 and 11%, and that means he's much more of a threat. Perhaps that explains why François Hollande, in some of his recent speeches, has been lurching leftwards with those higher tax rates on very high earners, and this is proving a positive thing for the UMP Conservatives. As Mélenchon rises in the polls, many are saying that Hollande is losing a couple of points at the same time. You can't necessarily say it's exactly the same voters that he's gaining and losing, but there is something that does demonstrate that. To add to the mix, what's coming out at the moment is a video that's been found in the archives, dates from 2009, was filmed for France 24, and he in it he's talking about the battle for control of the Socialist Party back in 1997. That's when Hollande actually beat Mélenchon hands down. Let's take a listen to what is basically a very scathing conclusion on Hollande.
Of course, a deal with Hollande is as good as nothing, because he never keeps his word. Because it's a game for him. He likes to play. It amused him to see me humiliated, to see me furious, just to amuse him.
Now, the website that began this is a right-wing website, and this is all a bit of a plot that many people are saying, that the right-wing are trying to promote Jean-Luc Mélenchon. Indeed, Sarkozy praised his political honesty. They're very much saying there is perhaps profit to be gained from a good performance from the far left at the expense of the moderate left.
All right, let's talk very briefly about François Bayrou. He was quite a serious contender last time around, wasn't he? But he's seen his support evaporate, really, over the past 5 years. He's still in there, though, isn't he?
He's struggling at fourth. He is still in there, but Mélenchon is very much snapping at his heels, as we've seen. He's doing so badly, he's had to relaunch his entire campaign this week. A new slogan, which basically is an answer to Sarkozy's La France forte. This is La France solidaire, France in solidarity. Bad news is for him that it's not really working. He's very popular in the polls. People like him as a person, but they're not prepared to vote for him. Basically, his message of rigour and debt cutting is not the medicine the French want to hear.
All right, now, young people disproportionately hit by unemployment and suffering cuts to education spending are expected to turn out in large numbers for this election, and 5 million more of them are eligible to vote. Well, what do these first-time voters have to say about the choice of candidates? Let's find out.
Give grades to each campaign. That's the suggestion put forward by so-called ratings agency Young and Poor. The organisation was founded just a few days ago and has drawn on the help of experts from across the political spectrum to rate the candidates running in the French presidential elections.
When you consider the policies of each candidate, they haven't seized the opportunity to solve young people's problems. There are young people who are qualified, unqualified, employed and unemployed. They're not looking at any of this.
The ratings given to candidates so far are no better than a C grade, with socialist François Hollande, left-winger Jean-Luc Mélenchon and far-right leader Marine Le Pen scoring highest. As for incumbent Nicolas Sarkozy, his score would barely pass the final exam. This comes in spite of them putting the concerns of young people at the forefront of their campaigns.
It's for the young people of this country that I want to become president. I want to give them their confidence back.
Yet here in the Paris Graduate Job Fair, the next generation of voters feels disconnected to older ones. They also believe politicians haven't stepped up to the mark in addressing issues important to them.
There's no candidate whose policies match my politics or gives the answers I'm looking for. No one.
With 1 in 4 young people unemployed in France and 1 in 5 living under the poverty line, the average age of finding a steady job is 28. French presidential hopefuls have just 1 month to win the young vote and try to improve their scorecards.
All right, and that brings us to the end of Campaign Chronicles for tonight. Luke Brown, many thanks indeed. Thanks to you for watching. Do stay tuned. More headlines coming up right here.